This is Dr. Jerome Corsi, and today is Thursday. It's September 28th, 2023. Thank you for joining us on thetruthcentral.com. We're doing podcasts every weekday. First story today is on the potential government shutdown. It looks like it's increasingly more likely. What's being reported today by most of the major newspapers is that the GOP has a really strong group of about 30 in the House who are like Jim Jordan, very, very conservative, want to establish some control over the budget. This is the same kind of group that did not vote to certify the election in 2020. They thought there were election improprieties. Of course, the Department of Justice considers them all subversives if we got serious about this. At any rate, they're just saying no. They're not going to go along with it. Now, Kevin McCarthy's done about every kind of contortion he can do. And usually this is a kabuki dance. I mean, they go through this all the time. They say, well, we're going to have shutdown of the government unless we raise the debt ceiling, and they get a continuing resolution. Continuing resolution is one of these inventions that's not in the Constitution. It just means we'll just keep going like we're going. We won't pass a budget. We won't set spending limits. We'll just keep going. So it's just to continue. Well, this group of 30 doesn't want a continuing resolution. They want budget control. They don't want to be spending another $30 billion on Ukraine, throwing it away, having it stolen. So Kevin McCarthy basically worked on a bill yesterday, that was going to keep the spending levels at the current amount about mid-November, that amount through November. Then they're going to look at it again. Yep, right, sure. Some of the billions of dollars Biden seeks in U.S. aid to Ukraine and natural disaster relief would be funded. But McCarthy rejected that measure, saying we're not going to do that in the exact way that Biden wanted it done. But he could not come up with a compromise that settled or satisfied the conservative group. Now, Biden was saying, we made a deal, and he's saying, we thought we had this all worked out. Well, they did think they had it all worked out, except that this conservative group is not going to go along. Now, the shutdown of the government is going to be painful for a lot of people because a lot of checks stop going out. And that's the pressure. They don't want to stop the money flowing. They don't want to stop having the payment to all this massive bureaucracy we've got that works in Washington, D.C. As far as I'm concerned, they can shut down the government permanently. I mean, move all the bureaucracy to Death Valley and let them have all the solar and wind they want and Quonset huts to cool themselves off. This is not a government that is functioning. This is a government that is completely broke. They can't do a budget because they can't control spending. It's impossible. We've got all this non-discretionary spending. Discretionary spending means they could take it out of the budget. But once you get these entitlement programs passed, and it includes Obamacare, they just grow and grow and grow. And Cloward Piven were two sociologists in Columbia University when Obama was supposedly there. I still don't believe Obama attended, but when he was supposedly there, had a theory that if they could just increase public spending, they could destroy the government, they could bring down capitalism because we would spend too much. And that's what's happening. We're experiencing the ultimate Cloward Piven shutdown of the entire government and the economy. Now, this is serious because it's a crisis and it has no immediate resolution. They'll probably come up with some kind of compromise or other. I'm sure McCarthy is now at the level of threatening all of these 30 members of Congress that they'll never be reelected. They'll never get another penny from the GOP if they continue this resistance. I doubt if Matt Gaetz or Jim Jordan care. And the group is going to be solid, but the pressures here are going to be intense to come to some kind of an agreement. That's how Washington works. It is dysfunctional. The only real solution is just to kick the can down the road, pass a continuing resolution, keep spending, and hope you can solve it in the future, which you never will. Now, what this is leading us into is a situation of stagflation. We've got massive, massive inflation going on, and it's uncontrollable. It's not going to be easily stopped. And with the situation, the Federal Reserve saying we're going to continue, we're going to hold rates this month, but we're going to keep higher rates because they have to do it. They can't control the inflation with the amount of money we're spending in the government. Now, the stock market's been very weak this week because it's very, very worried that we're going to hit globally a credit crisis. And I think it's inevitable. There are just trillions of dollars in these commercial real estate markets where the buildings are vacant downtown. Downtown areas are getting unsafe. Saw what happened in Philadelphia the other day when these mobs just smash and grab all through the downtown area. You get San Francisco, the homelessness, the problem, all Rodeo Drive, stores are shutting down all over the country. When retail shuts down in the cities, that means the cities have less tax revenue. Less tax revenue means the cities are going to go bankrupt. Bankrupt means they're not going to be able to function unless they find federal government to bail them out. Fundamentally, we've got a Ponzi scheme going here, where unless we keep printing money, and the more money we print, the easier it is to steal it. That's what we're finding out. The corruption is rampant. Send $20 billion to Ukraine for more weapons. We're sending these Abrams tanks. Well, Russia says they're going to burn too. War is not being fought today the way it was even 5 years ago. War today is more like a video game. They're fighting war from outer space with GPS targeting, long-range missiles. This is not a battlefield war any longer. Battlefield's obsolete. You can't put anything in the battlefield without it being destroyed. Naval ships are obsolete. They're just targets in the Black Sea for missiles. We're fundamentally re-architecting a technological world that we don't yet understand. And we're into economics that we do understand, and they mean a massive crash. That's why, again, and I'm desperately urging people to call up Swiss America and get a free copy of this book. I'm explaining that if you really want to understand what's going on, there's a global crash coming, and it's being engineered. It's intentional. The left wants to destroy capitalism, and they're going to use everything they can to destroy capitalism, including spending us into ruin. The world governments are buying gold massively. Why? Because they know it's going to go up in value. Jimmy Carter went through this stagflation, which is a combination of a stagnant economy, which we've got layoffs going on all over the country. We've got massive issues with retail shops. They closed down their primary locations in downtown areas, these big retail companies. That's going to hurt their bottom lines. Be layoffs as a result of that. So we're in a period of stagflation. You've got inflation, which is hurting the middle class dramatically. Middle class is going to be almost not able to afford living here any longer. And gold in 1980, when Ronald Reagan took over, went to $843 an ounce. It was $35 an ounce in 1971. That's when we went off the gold standard. Then we had the 2008-2009 collapse of the subprime real estate market. This real estate market collapse is going to dwarf that one. And what happened is major financial institutions failed, both because the securitized mortgages, when they package mortgages up into securities, they failed. And then that also triggered the derivatives, which are these very, very exotic bets on the future performance of various kinds of investments or pieces of investments. That's what destroyed AIG and Lehman Brothers in that era. But again, gold went to $1,426 an ounce. Then COVID, gold went to $2,000 an ounce. It'll do it again. Just call this number, this toll-free number. You get a free copy of the book. This one book where I'm saying that this is so important for people to read. Just give it away. 800-519-6268. Call that toll-free number. Get a copy of this book free. I'm going to repeat that for everyone in audio. It's on the screen. You can see the book. 1-800-519-6268. Get a free copy of the book. Second story. Biden crime family, which is the first story segues into this one, in that, you've got so much corruption. 100 pages of newly released memos about the Biden family show that this corruption has been going on for 10 years, and that Joe Biden has been in it all the way. The FBI had investigated the Bidens for violating this Foreign Agents Registration Act, which they clearly did. And then the FBI backed away from it because the Department of Justice didn't want to go after the Bidens. Then there's more documentation that we've gotten. Biden was briefed by various Ukraine third-party groups and lobbyists in the United States on talking points before he went over there in 2015, when he was trying to shut down the investigation of Burisma, which his son was involved in the board, and they were receiving massive, massive payoffs. Hillary Clinton, I think, was allowed by Obama as Secretary of State to continue running the Clinton Foundation, which, by the way, they're ramping up again in order to steal more money on Ukraine relief. Clintons are good at this. I wrote a book called Partners in Crime. Their foundation violates so many of the laws of how 501c3s are supposed to operate, but the IRS doesn't care, and the Department of Justice doesn't care. This is the Clintons. And Obama said, go ahead and steal. Haiti has an earthquake, so the Clintons descend on it, raise billions of dollars in aid, including from the State Department, and then it's all gone. Yet the people are left miserable as they were before, if not worse, because the Clintons were there. The Clintons took the money. This has been, if you'd read that book, you'd see how the corruption is rampant in Washington. And Peter Schweizer's on the same kick. I think Peter Schweizer's doing an excellent job. The Government Accountability Committee. He's really on the target, understanding just how massive the economic situation is right now, and desperate it is. So Biden has coached what to say, go over there, steal more money. And so Obama says to Hillary, you can have the Clinton Foundation, you can be Secretary of State, you can have a private email server so you can run the Clinton Foundation business while you're at the State Department, leveraging the State Department power to help these oligarchs you want to get their money from, these criminals in China and Ukraine and anywhere else you can find them. And so the Clintons and the Bidens went searching for wealthy criminals all over the world to help them launder their money, help them run their illegal businesses, hide their cash, and get paid off for it, while leveraging their positions in the U.S. government for political favors. I mean, we are a failed government at the moment. This is the formula for an end game of a republic. We're in the middle of deconstructing the United States government and the United States middle class, and it's intentional, because the real end game, the oligarchs are over here waiting for the woke to destroy our culture, get us out of God, forget about God. What do you want to believe? Sky fairies? Yeah, well, we may be sky fairies. It looks like a physical existence here. I continue to maintain this is a spiritual existence, not what it appears to be. And I'm writing books on this too. I mean, I'm writing like crazy. The truth about energy, global warming, climate change is done very well. This one is next. It's on the truth about it. This will be out in October in a few days. Truth about neo-Marxism, cultural Maoism, and anarchy. We'll be doing shows about this. We'll be doing some special broadcasts on it. But we are right now in the anarchy, because all of this climate change movement is all neo-Marxism aimed at convincing you to march yourself into slavery. Chris, you want to comment on it so far?
I remember when you wrote the book, Partners in Crime. I actually did a show surrounding that a long time ago when I was doing some talk radio. It's weird following these people from the Tyson days on forward, and they seem to get away with everything because, hey, Bill's charming. Not that many people love Hillary, as you can see. Nobody, again, I'll even say the Democrats didn't want her to become president. That's where Obama came from out of the blue. But again, that's another rabbit hole for a different day. The idea is these people have been getting away with so much over the years, it doesn't matter to them anymore. Obama, same thing. He's in the club. What was that? Wasn't that George Carlin who said it's a big club and you're not in it?
Yeah, and it is. And these people all understand that they're playing by rules that don't apply to us.
Exactly.
And that's the whole nature of the game, is that they think they are the new kings of the world. Let's move on, Chris. I want to cover a lot today. This CIA story about Fauci is gaining momentum. What happened is that Fauci was smuggled into the CIA during COVID because the CIA wanted to hide the fact that we were involved in creating COVID through funding the gain of function research in Wuhan. And Fauci was deep into that. And also the NIH scientists, all these scientists in the government, the medical government institutions, the NIH, the CDC, if they develop patents for medications or treatments for diseases, they can get royalties on the pharmaceuticals that result from those patents. So they're all getting rich. Again, these are getting rich schemes. It's what's driving the world today. And what they're finding is that one of the main companies is Echo Health, which came out early on and said that the COVID naturally transferred from animals, from bats. Remember all this stuff about bats, and it went to human beings, when the truth was that it was funded by the CIA, and Fauci was deep into it from the very beginning. So some of the conclusions of really getting into how the CIA worked with these third-party groups and various scientists who were on the CIA payroll, but denying it, presenting themselves as if they were public service groups. And yet they parroted the cover story for the CIA that the COVID naturally escaped from animals. So the truth is that, and these are the endpoints of an article. This is an article that is posted today on Zero Hedge, that SARS-CoV-2, COVID-2, which is COVID-19, was created in the lab in Wuhan, China. Anthony Fauci funded the creation of COVID and lied to Congress about funding gain-of-function work. Gain-of-function work means you take a virus and you make it more deadly. They were actually trying to make naturally occurring viruses extremely dangerous. Now, why would you do that unless you wanted to kill a lot of people? U.S. intelligence community was aware of and approved, they appeared to have been involved in the funding of the gain-of-function work. A number of well-connected public and private partners were involved in the gain-of-function work that resulted in the creation and release of COVID-19. Anthony Fauci and others coordinated the cover-up of the funding of the gain-of-function work that resulted in COVID-19 by cooperating with the CIA to put out disinformation. So they lied. They created a deadly virus. We had a lockdown, which they engineered. And in the process, Fauci made plenty of money, got to be a media hero, and lied through his teeth while people died. The new abnormal. Authoritarian controls are leading to micromanage our lives. This is a very good article by John and Nishta Whitehead, and I linked to the article. But look at all the control that we're doing, and they have a good litany of the control here. If I can find the paragraph, they say, okay, listen to all the things that are going on. Censorship, criminalizing our behavior. Catholics who like the Latin maths, they're really dangerous. That's what the Department of Justice believes. Shadow banning and deplatforming of individuals who express ideas that are politically incorrect or unpopular. I was off of Twitter for years and I'm off of YouTube and off of I've been deplatformed so many times I don't even pay attention to it anymore. Warrantless surveillance of Americans' movements and communications. The NSA had me surveyed for years and probably still does. SWAT team raids of American homes, shootings of unarmed citizens by police, harsh punishments to school children in the name of zero tolerance, community-wide lockdowns and health mandates that strip Americans of freedom, armed forces taking to the skies domestically with drones and other surveillance equipment, endless wars, Iraq, Ukraine, one after the other, out-of-control spending, militarized police, roadside strip searches, privatized prisons with a profit incentive for jailing Americans, fusion centers that spy on, collect, and disseminate data on Americans' private transactions, and militarized agencies and stockpiles of ammunition, to name just some of the more egregious. So we've got an all-knowing surveillance state, and it's got now an all-muscle police state combined, and this is the formula for a small group of people to terrorize the citizens and to essentially be able to lock us all down with narratives that they've manufactured, like COVID. When combined with the advances in mass surveillance technology, artificial intelligence-powered programs that track people by their biometrics and behavior, mental health sensor data tracked by wearable data and monitored by government agencies like HARPA, threat assessments, behavioral assessment warnings, social media scores, red flag gun laws, mental health first aid programs aimed at training gatekeepers to identify who might pose a threat to those in power, preemptive mental health programs which could signal a tipping point in the government's efforts to penalize those who engaged in thought crimes or wanted to own weapons under the Second Amendment. They're moving into the area now of being able to survey what you think, and they want to tax the air you breathe. That's the whole zero. We exhale carbon dioxide. That's the whole net zero. They're criminalizing the fact that we breathe. This is insanity. This is the kind of control that Americans have fought the revolution to avoid. And of course, now with the technological state, their capabilities are massive and growing. And I want to cover a couple more things very quickly, but the idea here that World War II is about to start. We have a deep state military-industrial complex where about 2.1 million people are employed by the defense industries, and they get average salaries about $106,000, which is 40% higher than the normal average, national average. Then you've got active duty uniform personnel of about 1.3 million and reserves of about 840,000. We've got a lot of these people who go on pensions and get jobs then in the industries who are producing the arms. In other words, the military-industrial complex is probably today the most vital part of our economy, probably the only part of our economy where we're manufacturing anything. And this is, again, extremely dangerous because they'll want perpetual wars. One of the things we're doing in Ukraine is we're getting all this obsolete equipment, military equipment, send it over there, let it get destroyed, then we get new equipment. And when you look at how many congressional districts have manufacturing plants on the F-35, you see how the congressional people in Congress make sure they get a lot of this military money going into their districts to help them get reelected. It's all about money. And when it gets to be all about money, as this is, the middle class is going to be left high and dry because these people don't think they need the middle class. You know, it's one of the great mysteries to me about globalism is why, you know, we even in the Security and Prosperity Partnership of North America, where George W. Bush, about 2010, wanted to put this big superhighway through the middle of the United States. I fought this very hard with Phyllis Schlafly. And they were going to bring in all these containers with these goods from China through deep sea ports in Mexico. We're going to have all global, we're going to tie together with transportation systems, the rail systems and the highways with Canada and Mexico and make this a dropping off point for third world goods. Well, who's going to buy the goods if nobody here was manufacturing anything, if we weren't working? Without a middle class, you don't have an economy. And these geniuses don't realize that. They think they can run the economy with their machines. We're in a very dystopian time. And Chris, I'm under some time pressure today, so we're going to have to wrap this up. If you have a quick comment, let's move towards the close.
Oh, yes. We are living in dystopian times. All those things you've listed, too, can be abused not only by the government, but by corporations. You might remember what happened with the Google, the gentleman from Google who blew the whistle on their electioneering, if you will. He was flagged by the company. He got the red flag by the company so he wouldn't be able to purchase a weapon as well. Corporations, so the oligarchy here in America, if you will, can do the same thing the government can through these authoritarian procedures.
Right. I mean, the government, the corporations will follow what the government wants done, up to this ESG and all these other things that they've done. And these things don't work. They're not meant to work. They're meant to destroy the middle class. That's the hard idea to get through your head. And that this is an intentional destruction of the greatest capitalist system, the greatest wealth creation system the world has ever seen. This is Dr. Jerome Corsi. This is Thursday, September 28th, 2023. In the end, God will win. God always wins. In the end, God always wins because God created this place and God can pull the plug any day God wants. And God rules here, not the rules of Joe Biden or the World Economic Forum or the woke neo-Marxists, not the cultural revolution we're going through, the neo-Maoism, this new cultural Maoism, no family, how many genders you want to have, 150 gender, got more genders than Heinz has 57 sauce. Look, the nonsense here and the insanity mean that people are going to be asked to live lives that are unlivable. And at some point or other, these people will have World War III. They'll be thinking they'll survive it, and depopulate the world is within their agenda. In the end, God wins because God will have a judgment on this kind of Satanism, which is basically what it is. That we can put ourselves on the throne of God. We can architect transhumanism, artificial intelligence. I'm sorry, but people have no concept of how we're nothing compared to God. We couldn't create this place. We don't know even how we got here. And God gives us a solution. 2 Chronicles 7:14. We've got to realize our sins and ask forgiveness for taking God out of our schools, out of our public square, out of our hearts. You put up a statue of Satan, but you can't have the 10 Commandments. We have to apologize to God. We've got to beg forgiveness for letting these millions of children die in the womb by being killed, cut to pieces by abortionists in the womb before they had a chance to breathe outside the womb for a second. That violates God's laws. It's wrong. And we must atone for that. God says if we do atone for that, he will hear our prayer and he will heal our land. I think we should do that in massive numbers. Dr. Jerome Corsi, today is Thursday, September 28th, 2023. We will be back tomorrow. We're broadcasting every weekday. Thank you for joining us. God bless.